Arcane Act 3 is right around the corner, and alongside the Act 3 teaser and the unused clips from the trailers, we can piece together a lot of what might happen. Starting off with the trailer, Jace talks about the oncoming storm as we see Ambessa gathering her Noxen forces with some Shimmer Noxens. I'm curious what Ambessa's motivations for charging into Piltover are. Since she was betrayed by Caitlyn, it's possible she goes full mask off and just want to decimate Piltover. Her goal has always been Hex Tech, so I'm guessing she's after the research notes and maybe wants to kidnap Jace or something, but I think she already has her Hex Tech scientist. We see Vi with her new gloves alongside the meeting between Jace, Caitlyn, Mel, and Vi. It's curious how Echo, Savika, and Jinx aren't here. Seems like Mel found a way to escape the Black Rose, and Caitlyn discusses how Victor is at the center of this. More on that later. Jace is wearing some new clothes. Next shot is of Singe milking Vander, but it's possible Vander's still alive after what Isha did. I'm doubtful though. Then we're shown Victor's body getting recovered as he's about to go full Eren Yeager. What's probably Singe's hand turns a valve and shoots chemicals at either Warwick or Victor's body. I'm guessing it's Victor. After that, we get the aftermath of the Commune War where Ambessa and Singe see the life force leave of all the cured cultists. We then see giant shells strike Piltover and Caitlyn thinks she can handle a close range fight. Note how Ambessa is armored with the magic absorbing stones, so you can't just use Hex Tech on her. We see Vi arguing about how Caitlyn got brainwashed by Ambessa and Caitlyn sounds super regretful. I'm glad there's still some unresolved tension between the two and they didn't just reconcile just like that. I want to mention how I saw a lot of people complain how Vi and Caitlyn got together way too fast in Act 2, but it's important that Vi mentions saving her dad, and losing a parent is literally the main motivator of Caitlyn's actions, so it makes sense why she was so nice then. After that, Ambessa goes to the community center to pick up her weekly batch of free meat. Then Vi single-handedly reduces the average Noxen IQ by 10 points before she gets pinned down. Ambessa yells fire with a suspicious-looking airship behind her. I got a lot of heat for this on stream, but I think it's very likely that Jinx teams up with Ambessa at the end. Also, from a music disc cover, we basically get confirmation that it's Jinx driving this. But it's worth mentioning how we don't know the capability of Noxen artillery, so the shells being fired from Jinx's airship would make a lot of sense coming from Noxen ships, but I'm still banking on it being Jinx. Glass gets shattered and we see an even more broken Jinx before things rewind, followed by an even more ominous shot of Jinx. She loses the X on her chest and pulls a grenade which explodes right in her hand. Maybe that's how she loses her hair. We hear Vi telling Jinx to use her potential for good, which makes me think that Jinx is going full villain arc like I have been always saying. There's an image of Jinx inside of a hex gem as Jinx looks at it menacingly. Seems like Caitlyn is still ignoring the Geneva Convention as she's still gassing people. She uses her new railgun on some fodder and then Vi pushes a guy into a hex tech contraption. This looks like a Noxen invention with the red, and if Ambessa actually teamed up with Jinx, then it makes sense where she found an engineer to build it. You could argue that because the device lacks all of Jinx's artistic flair on it, it can't be hers, but note that her airship also looks pretty bland, so maybe she just lost all color in her life. Then again, it's possible Jace built this to catch flies or something. We'll just have to see. We see Jinx's mounted Gatling gun on her airship start firing. Okay, I'm getting into this. Yes, Jinx is gonna team up with Ambessa, and I see some cope that she's actually aiming at Ambessa, but if you look at the other shot, Jinx is clearly not aiming down, but forward. Also coincides with Ambessa yelling fire as she fires rounds into Piltover, so your guess is as good as mine. Okay, left over from the trailers, we get a lot of good information, and I'm so confident at this point that I'm warning about Act 3 spoilers. First, Vi looks up and she looks very conflicted. The Hex Gates are shrouded in fog menacingly, and Jinx without an X lights a match and throws it into oil. Here she's probably mourning the death of Isha. Vi is screaming and reaching out for some reason. Singe then talks about the Arcane waking up. Caitlyn shooting her railgun again, Enforcers taking cover, running across a bridge, Vi saving people, Nox and drums, more war stuff, you get the point. Now the kicker is that this one scene of Caitlyn looking upwards angrily. We know Jinx is in the air and probably causing some damage, and we see Maggie's body next to her. The bracelet and the chest armor match, so good riddance? Also note that in Act 2, Heimerdinger and Echo are still missing in the Arcane dimension, and Jace was the only one who got out. Since we see Heimerdinger doing science and Echo using his Z-Drive, we know they get out somehow. People say that since the explosion at the end of Act 2 stopped for a second, that Echo is about to save everyone, but that's a load of cope and we all know it. No, I'm kidding, that was a bit harsh. If Echo is about to show up, I think Arcane would tease his appearance in the background of shots, or maybe a shortcut of his boots following them, but I only rewatched it once, so I might have missed something. It's possible Echo steps in, but by the look of Jinx, Isha is probably gone. We do see a beaten up Echo talk about moving forward and a curious strand of blue hair on the left. But remember that the Firelights are also fighting Noxens as well. So with the final war, I think it's increasingly likely that the battle is going to be between Piltover and the Firelights versus Noxus and Zaun. I talk about this a million times, but it's more relevant than ever. The war has always been about Piltover and Zaun. That's why everything started with Jinx shooting the missile. Since Noxus is seen fighting a coalition between Piltover and the Firelights, they are way outmatched. We know Zaun has some hand to play. So if everyone just teams up against Evil and Bessa, her goose is cooked. No amount of her bullshittery can make this a high stakes fight. We are at the climax of the story, tension should be at its highest, and we need a feeling that we are fucked. Yeah, Singe is juicing some soldiers, but we all know that's not enough. You might say that Victor is a wild card, so let's talk about what he's going to do. Victor is definitely alive, or comes back, because we see the Ascendant humans rising from the first trailer, and Victor's final monologue talks about how he must abandon humanity and take a different route. He is going down the apathetic villain path, that's just how the story goes. Within his conversation with Singed, remember that Singed talks about how Victor is losing power and how he should combine with Warwick's immense regenerative capabilities. The apex form of Shimmer with the apex form of Hextech would fix all of Victor's issues, but his empathy is holding him back. Well, remember in the Act 3 trailer, we see Singe sucking Warwick and turning a pipe to draw fluid towards a body? Well, Singe is going to revive Victor in his peak form, all in the name of completing his work of the glorious evolution. The defense squad is also saying how Victor is behind something. I want to remind everyone that this fight takes place in two halves, made clear by Echo. We see Echo teaming up with Vi, flying up towards Jinx and not Mbessa because Mbessa is charging from the ground, and all of this happens in the daytime. Echo is also fighting with his wrench. But later, Echo has his Z-Drive and is fighting with his Time Baton in the night. Also, this shot of the Hexgate in the dark sky also shows the Arcane Coombe spreading onto all of Piltover's buildings. And we know Victor loves spreading the Arcane around. Victor is planning his assault on Piltover too, and he's probably after the Hexgate and the Wild Runes to open the portal into the Arcane. Heimerdinger doing his experiments is probably trying to stabilize the Arcane to prevent more magic stuff. Victor's going to be a third party in attacking Piltover to some extent, and we still don't know about Zaun or Savika. Well, as I'm writing the script, Arcane just dropped the Savika poster with magic coursing within her Hextech scar. The main forces of Zaun are possibly going to follow Jinx's lead into Piltover. There's a weird dynamic between Jinx and Zaun, and she was much less of a direct leader than I was expecting, but the rioting Undercity is still an important force to consider. And while Piltover is distracted by Mbessa is the perfect time to strike. A team up between Jinx and Victor is also super likely since I've discussed the two similarities before. In episode 6, Jinx causes a gear to drop and Victor seems weirdly fascinated by it the whole episode. One side being humanity, peace, and order, the other warped and chaotic. Just like Powder and Jinx, Victor and Dark Victor, he talks about the duality of building and destroying, and with his upcoming physical change paired alongside his mindset switch after Jace's attack is going to push him towards attacking Piltover, maybe alongside Jinx. I'm also a fan of Jinx taking control of the ultimate arcane magic at the very end of the climax to blow up all of Piltover, so Jinx and Victor collab would lead up to that fact. But in the end, there's more evidence than ever that Jinx is going haywire and planning to completely level Piltover, working alongside Mbessa and Victor as the heroes of Piltover are way out of their depth. But things will end well, since Arcane is a story about forgiveness, and the hearts of Vi and Echo will diffuse Jinx in time for an ending that will break all of our hearts. Thank you guys for watching, and yes, I might have inserted way too much agenda inside this video, but I think with how mostly kinda not really correct I have been about Arcane Season 2 so far, I think it's worth mentioning. Okay, this video is going to take forever to edit, so I'm going to wrap things up here and talk about Jinx blowing up Piltover in another final video. I'll catch you guys in the next one.